We're proud of every player that wore a blue and white shirt with Kentucky across the chest, that have all been a part of this great tradition.
Welcome to a very special episode of BBN Tonight. I'm Keith Farmer. Joe B. Hall is credited for the job he did keeping the University of Kentucky's basketball program the preeminent program in the sport after Adolph Rupp's career came to an end. Of course, winning the 1978 national championship had a lot to do with that, but Coach Hall accomplished much more than that, including his role in integrating black student athletes and assistant coaches into the program and his work in the community after his 13 successful years on the court. This episode is the story of Joe B. Hall, as told by some of his players.
The memorial service for Coach Hall was today, and obviously it was a big time for all of us, but for the Big Blue Nation, a loss that is going to be felt for a long, long time. Folks, I'm joined by, and they don't need an introduction, but I'm just going to let you know this is Kenny Walker, and of course Reggie Warford, who I'm really, really excited about having. Reggie, one of the first African-American players Coach Hall ever recruited. First, guys, let's go back down memory lane a little bit. People don't believe me when I tell them that this grandfatherly, lovable man that they would see sitting courtside all the time was Coach Hall. He wasn't like that always, was he? I tell people that.
He was the devil in a blue uniform when you played for him.
Devil in the blue uniform. That's pretty good. He had a way about him. He wouldn't hold back when it came to trying to get the most out of every player he coached.
Yeah, he would challenge you. He was tough, but he was fair.
Yeah.
And, you know, the old saying goes, you can't treat everybody the same, but I think Coach Hall really tried to treat everybody the same, especially if you came in, you was tough, had a good attitude, and you worked really hard. Those were his type of, players. But even the guys that he liked, he would challenge you each and every day in practice.
Big time.
You think, now you see this guy, years after he's retired, he's a nice, gentle guy, but as competitive as anybody that I've ever seen. He went against Bobby Knight.
Yes.
He went against Dean Smith, some of the great coaches, of that era, and he held his own.
Yeah.
He did very well.
Reggie, this is not a history lesson, but I do want to go back, though, because at the time when Coach Hall was recruiting you,
Yes.
man, it was tough decisions you had to make, just simply because of the way things were, particularly in the southern part of the country, but right here at the University of Kentucky. But somehow he convinced you to come here.
The truth be known that Coach Hall had recruited myself and the Player of the Year in Kentucky, a gentleman by the name of Jerry Thrusten from Owensboro Senior High. And
he beat me in the state tournament, man.
I didn't like him.
Didn't have to bring that up, but go ahead.
But we were good friends and had agreed to come to Kentucky together. Coach Hall came to my banquet, my high school banquet, where I signed the national letter. And then a couple of days later, we thought Jerry was going to join us. And he had been getting calls about what would happen to him if he came to Kentucky.
Yeah.
I didn't get as many calls because, quite frankly, our phone was on a party line. And there were like 7 other families sharing that phone. So we didn't, I
Didn't have time, man.
No, I didn't. But Coach Hall recruited me and convinced me that he liked the way I shot the ball and that I was going to be a great offensive player. Now, I told him that I'd visited Indiana, and Bobby Knight had told me that he was going to turn me into the greatest defensive guard in the Big Ten.
I like the offensive side.
Yeah.
Another thing he did,
I
though,
did.
Another thing he did, though, was that he brought Leonard Hamilton in to the program, and Leonard had actually recruited you at Austin Peay some to try to get you to come down there. How important was it that he brought Leonard Hamilton in?
Well, it was important because I would have committed to Leonard Hamilton out of Austin Peay, but Leonard said, "Man, Kentucky wants you." He said, "You got to go."
Yeah.
And today, as we spoke with him,
we spoke with him today.
we learned all the reasons why. He thought I would be someone that could withstand the pressures of being at Kentucky.
Yeah.
That I could contribute maybe a little bit here and there, but that I would leave in good standing. And I was a good guy for Coach Hall, who was friends with his coach,
Right.
Lay Kelly, to be here. So it was an easy choice when he said, well, if I come down and speak at your banquet, would you sign? And my high school coach said, of course.
Yeah.
So I
didn't
didn't have a choice.
That's back when everything was controlled by the high school coach, not
Yeah.
by the AAU
you
coaches
coach,
as they
absolutely.
have now. Kenny, you came in with a really good group of players. And probably one of the more difficult times for me thinking about the teams you played on was that there was not a national championship won with all the talent you guys had. How was that going through that?
That's probably my biggest regret.
Yeah.
With all of my accomplishments and everything that I did in the career that I have here, my biggest regret was not winning a championship at the University of Kentucky, especially with the talented teams that we had for the 4 years that I was at UK. We always got close. Lost to Louisville in the original Dream game in the Elite Eight. Had that painful loss against Georgetown in 1984 when we should have won.
That was in Seattle.
In Seattle.
In Seattle.
When we shot 9.1% in the second half, 3 of 33 from the field.
Yeah, we'd beaten Georgetown by 20 that year.
Yeah, but the amazing thing about that, Patrick Ewing, who was on that team, the great Georgetown team, I played with him with the New York Knicks.
Right.
And
So
for
you had to
years,
hear about
I had
it.
to hear about, that Georgetown game. But felt so bad for Coach Hall in that year, Jack, because I think like your great 78 team, we had the bigs, we had the forwards, we had the guards,
everything.
We
on
had
that
the
team.
bench.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
and it was a great, season. Getting Sam back from injury from a couple of years was something that we had been waiting on, and we got that close. And to have that biggest stage to come short, I thought that was his best chance. But despite the numerous, failures that he had in the Final Fours, a little luck here and there.
Yeah.
You're talking about Coach Hall possibly having
4,
3,
5.
4 championships.
When we come back, the guys debate which team was Coach Hall's favorite. You're watching BBN Tonight.
Since opening our doors 75 years ago, Central Bank has made big changes, like the region's first Saturday hours, online ATMs, and even the area's very first vault. But one thing will never change is the community-minded mission of our founder. Garvis D. Kincaid believed that what's good for the bank should also be good for its community. True back in 1946 and equally true today. So, come see how we've grown. Central Bank, central to you. Member FDIC.
Can I ask you a question? And I'm serious.
You can ask me a question. Absolutely.
Which team would Coach Hall have chosen to coach? Your team, the 78 team, or Kenny when he had both Sam and Turk? Who do you think Coach Hall would have went with and why?
I think.
I think I know the answer to this.
Listen. Because Coach Hall was Coach Hall.
Yeah.
And the thing that we were similar that he would have wanted more than anything else was Twin Towers. We had Roby and Phillips and
very good
and
very dominant.
They were awesome. You guys had a couple bigs that
You mean Bowie and Turpin, right?
Bowie and Turpin
With Kenny Walker.
with Kenny Walker. And Kenny Walker is so much better than I ever dreamed of being. I think Coach Hall might have taken his team even over our team. I don't know. But see, I don't want to say, of course, he's going to take us.
Well, of course he's going to take you.
But both teams were great.
Both teams was great.
And I don't like you as the interviewer because that's a tough question.
That
man.
is a tough
That's
question.
a tough question.
Yeah.
Since we are in Memorial Coliseum, I do want to relive the final game we played in this building.
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State. And we were down late in the game. Had to go to overtime to win that.
9 points with 50 seconds to go.
But you
Great
tell this
memory.
story, Reggie, that I just don't remember, and it includes Coach Hall.
Kenny, it was a situation where when Coach Hall called timeout, we're all sitting there waiting, with bated breath. I think one of the managers gave Goose a glass of water, and, something to drink, so he's drinking the water. Coach Hall has his program, and he's got it rolled up, and he's explaining where he wants everybody. And Jack is taking.
I'm taking this in the middle of a set. But I worked hard, man. I was working hard. Come on.
Coach Hall takes the program, smacks him on the leg, and says, "Givens, listen to me." And as smooth as he played, Jack took the program out of his hand, smacked Coach Hall on the leg, said, "Don't hit me, man."
Folks, don't listen to that. That never happened.
As God is my witness, that happened on the court.
Sometimes you just block things out of your mind. Bad experiences. That was one of them.
The rest of the guys looked at him like he done lost his mind.
Love hearing those stories from the guys and would love to see the game between Jack and Kenny's teams. More Forever a Wildcat, the Joe B. Hall story after the break.
How's it working out with Benny here at the credit union?
Yeah. I'll be right with you, man. My bad.
Benny's better at football. We're better at banking.
He's working out, in a sense.
UK Federal Credit Union. It's banking, only better.
It's fair to say many current Kentucky fans remember Coach Hall as the grandfatherly figure at Rupp Arena during home games over the past 20 years. That just goes to show how big Coach Hall's impact was after he retired. But his impact on his players was bigger than basketball as well.
As a player, you know a coach, and frankly, if that's the only way you know him, your relationship ends at that time because you don't necessarily want it to go on. Mm-hmm. But because we had an opportunity to interact with Coach Hall all these subsequent years, I think we all will say we got to know him in a totally different way.
No question about that. I think his personality, his willingness to be an ambassador, to still be around, involved, not just with the University of Kentucky, but communities throughout the university, throughout the state of Kentucky. And the fact that he traveled this state, got into banking, and made so many relationships and did so many things. The Joe B. and Denny show,
right.
Whoever thought that would happen.
That was a great show.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
So he did so many things to promote himself, the University of Kentucky, the state of Kentucky, and he's probably the only coach that I've seen to become even more popular after
exactly.
his years were done. And I can't think of any other person that has followed a legend
right.
and done the things that Coach Hall has done. And to see him in his latter years, I think I've heard you say this, Jack, to be so happy.
Yeah.
And
content.
he just content, and despite some health problems and things that he was having, he always had a smile on his face.
He really did.
Always had the right attitude. And I think all of us, take a little bit of piece of what Joe Hall taught us, not only on the court, but off the court as well.
Yeah. And Reggie, when you got into coaching, you went from a player for Coach Hall to a peer. You were trying to do the same things and be successful that he had done. So I think that would have opened up a lot of opportunity again for you to get to know him a little bit different way.
It did. When I started out, I was the youngest full-time assistant coach in the country. But it was the knowledge that I learned here under Coach Hall and Dickie Parsons and Leonard Hamilton,
Right.
and Lynn Nance and Coach Hatfield, all those guys, and Coach Hall allowed them to flourish when they with him in practice. But the one thing that I got to tell you, because I've had some health issues myself, is that in the latter days of Coach Hall's life, we talked a lot. And a lot of the conversation is about living and dying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're a coach, your family become widows.
Right.
Your children don't get to see you much. Your wife, they share you with the state or the university or your players. And so you spread sort of thin. Coach Hall talked to me about what it was like for him in that situation and how glad he was now to be sort of enjoying the fruits of his labor later on in life. For me, he started out as a coach, became a mentor, and ultimately a friend.
Yeah,
They gave me the type of advice
absolutely.
and the counseling that you needed.
I mean, we always talk about legacies.
Well,
Someone
you
leaves
talk about
behind.
legacy because you got one.
I'm still trying to build mine. I'm trying to get on y'all's level, man.
I'm trying to rent a legacy.
How do you think Coach Hall will be remembered? I don't know that he will ever get the credit he deserves for being as good a coach as he was.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it really mattered to Coach Hall. As we look at his life, and it was a full life, man, how do you think people will remember him?
I'm hopeful that they remember him more as how happy he was in his latter years.
Yeah,
I think,
that's a good point. Good point.
I think, you know, following Coach Rupp, a legend, you know, culturally things were changing, you know, at that time. And, you know, hiring Leonard Hamilton to change the culture of Kentucky basketball, I think that's all important times for Coach Hall. And I think that for him to take on the task to be the first to fully integrate the program in the way that he did it, the class that he did it in, some of the pressures and the high expectations of following a legend.
Right.
Never really did I see him complain, you know, a whole lot, at least not publicly, about, you know, any of that stuff. He did his job. He did it to the best of his ability. Even more than being a great coach, a great mentor, a great father, you know, figure that guided us all, regardless of our backgrounds, where we came from, to taught us, you know, how to work hard, have the right attitude and the right image. So he took us from boys to men.
You just talked about Coach Hall being a father figure. Well, on the day that Coach Hall passed away, I buried my baby brother, Derek. And I was still feeling it when I heard from Goose and he told me. So I called Steve Hall, Coach Hall's son, and he had ridden the bus with us, and we'd been really friendly and close when I was here. And as we started to discuss his dad, he said, you know, there's a lot of people that will talk about one day how good a coach my father was. He said, but Reggie, I guarantee you, as good as he was a coach, he was a better dad.
Yeah.
That's the measure of a man.
Absolutely.
What he leaves. And I think that if you look at the people, look at us, the people that came in under. Yes, he was tough on us. Yes, he rode us. And yes, he made us understand that there's going to be things tougher in life than basketball.
That's right.
And so when times like these, when you have to go through some things, it's not foreign to you. And I think that's the example that he serves.
Joe B. Hall was a legend of Kentucky basketball. Over his 13 seasons, he won nearly 75% of his games, won the 1978 championship, and made 2 other Final Fours. He recruited Reggie Warford, the second black student athlete ever at Kentucky, in his first recruiting class. He revived the rivalry with Louisville, and Midnight Madness, now known as Big Blue Madness, began under Coach Hall. He was also key in the creation of the original Wildcat Lodge, and a bronze statue of Coach Hall sits outside of the current building. Truly a fixture of the community of Kentucky athletics and the entire Commonwealth. So this is a thank you to Coach Hall for a life well lived, and a thank you to Jack Givens, Reggie Warford, and Kenny Walker for sharing their memories and celebrating the life of their coach with us. This has been Forever a Wildcat, the Joe B. Hall story.